Hello. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We're going to get started. So our webinar today is titled Dancing Across Borders, Mayibuye's Journey to Global Impact. And it is part of the Living Leadership Series, which is brought to you with support from the Sylvan Laureate Foundation and the American Express Foundation. So let me just introduce ourselves. My name is Eric Lin, and I'm going to be your facilitator today. I'm a program manager with the YouthActionNet program, which is a program of the International Youth Foundation. And our presenter today is Kumari Middleton, who is a YouthActionNet Fellow from our Global Fellowship as well as from the Australian program, Young Social Pioneers. And she's the founder and CEO of Mayibuye. So to go over our agenda today, we're going to be going over what Mayibuye does and how it works, where they work and where they're going. We'll go through some common threads in the programming among the different countries that they work in. I'll facilitate a discussion and we'll have some time for questions and answers. And then we'll recap a little bit about different aspects of the program that enable scalability and some key leadership challenges that Kumari has overcome and is facing. And then finally at the end there'll be a slide with contact information in case you have further questions for Kumari or for us, or you want to follow up on anything. So without further ado, I'll let Kumari take it.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you everyone for joining across what I'm sure is many different time zones. Please do feel free to send through questions if there's something specific that you want to know and I'm not covering it. To start with, I just wanted to let you know what Mayibuye actually means. Mayibuye is a Zulu word from South Africa and it means bringing back what was lost. And we are a youth-led organisation which uses performing arts to empower vulnerable and at-risk youth. And we are currently working in Australia, South Africa, Cambodia, Brazil, India and Egypt. So looking at our programs, they all incorporate a combination of life skills and performing arts workshops. And they run either in schools or at community venues in the evenings. And we also have a number of initiatives that run in the school holidays, such as camps and conferences, international tours. And in April, we are launching our very first full-time school here in Melbourne, offering a Certificate 3 in community dance. So we're pretty excited about that one. Our curriculum is accessible online by all of our facilitators, and it basically consists of a number of headings and major topics with activities underneath it. So the facilitators can pick which activity is best suited to where their group is at and how deep they're ready to get to. We developed our curriculum ourselves, but we've also just gained access to the YouthActionNet curriculum, which is going to be really great in building leadership among our participants and also our volunteers. Some of the topics include diversity and acceptance, communications, health and well-being, leadership, social change, goal setting and career direction. And all of our workshops involve interactive activities. Rather than a lecture style of delivery, it's more involving the young people to come up with the solutions themselves to different problems. So it's learning and growing through doing. Our full-time school is a little bit different because it's specifically targeted towards people who want a career in community arts. So we have the practical classes which allow the participants to specialise in performing arts, but we also have theory classes which focus on how to work with marginalised communities, respect ethics and traditions, manage programs and projects, practice safe dance, and there's also a number of placements, so the students are actually out there in the field getting hands-on experience. So we currently have 800 young people engaged in our programs every week, and this is a number that I expect to double this year. And when we start our programs, we promote through local youth services, schools, councils, youth mailing lists, and all of our programs are free to the young people participating. However, when we start a new program, we often start quite small. There might be a couple of people that turn up, but we never worry because within a few weeks they've spread the word to their friends and family, and we just have people rolling in the door. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you start small, it just seems to happen and grow. Our model, it moves through a number of different phases. So we start with just simple dance workshops and team building activities to build trust and respect before introducing more intensive life skills and going deeper into the issues. Following this, the young people have the opportunity to go out and perform, so at festivals, events, conferences, and it just builds a sense of belonging and self-pride, and I guess helps them overcome sort of comfort zone issues and just get out there and try something. Then we introduce social change workshops and get the young people out there volunteering at different locations. And following this, we encourage them to actually choreograph pieces about the issues that they're facing and go out into the community and perform them. We find in a lot of the communities we work in, people won't come to a lecture, but they'll always come to a performance. So it's our way of sort of getting an additional form of education out there. Organisational structure. So we currently have 55 volunteers and we have local teams in every country that we work. Our South African and Cambodian project managers are paid a salary, and I'm hoping to be able to introduce that into the other countries this year. And also working on getting a lot more full-time staff at the head office just as we grow so that we can manage that and be more sustainable. We have many local partners which support us in the delivery of the programs. So I thought I would just give you an example of some of these. So we partnered with Swinburne University to build an art centre in Cambodia, so that's happening right now as we speak. So the trade students who are learning sort of building and construction are actually over there building it with the local Cambodians. So they fundraised for the whole centre, and yeah, it's been really great. Wouldn't have been able to do it without them. Cat Cafe Learning Centre in India, where we're running our programs, who supported us with a venue, access to participants, and they also sourced a local staff member for us who runs the programs. We also work with a lot of local government councils who either provide us access to venues or sponsor venue hire. And an example of a school that we work in is Chum Creole High School in Cambodia, and so they've actually put us in as part of the curriculum, and that's happening in a number of countries now. So we run art, drama, dance and life skills workshops as part of the educational curriculum. We have a number of different funding streams. So we still rely on grants and philanthropic funding. We also have some fee-for-service programs. So when we run workshops, one-off workshops at schools or corporates, we charge for them, and then we also get paid for a number of performances now. We also have fundraisers and events, gala dinners, barbecues, and we go to a lot of festivals and do henna tattoos as well, so that's a bit of fun. We also do crowdfunding initiatives. So last year we raised $5,000 towards this community art centre in Cambodia, just getting people online to donate. We sell products here in Australia, so all of our overseas projects, we source locals who are already making art or jewellery, and we purchase that and we can sell it back in Australia, and then the money goes back to the projects. We also run overnight cultural tours, so for people that are visiting the region who want to get a real experience of life in that country and life in the townships, we offer tours and homestays, and they get to meet the kids and dance with them and that kind of thing. Just gives them a different perspective away from the tourist attractions, I guess. And we also get some corporate sponsorship, and this is something that I really want to focus this year on, is getting some multi-year funding from international corporates. So I'll just sort of run through a bit of what we're doing in each of these countries. In South Africa, we are now working in 4 townships in KwaZulu-Natal. And I guess our focus here is creating a generation of young people who are willing to step up and be the community leaders and role models that they need moving forward. I guess because of HIV, there's a big generational gap, and so there is a lack of role models in the community. So we're saying that these young people can be those ones and showing them how. In Australia, we're working in 8 locations around Victoria. And the big focus here is just acceptance of diversity, whether it's culture, sexuality, ability, just promoting cooperation among all the different groups in the hope that we can reduce discrimination, especially as these young people are going to be the next leaders. In Cambodia, we're working in schools, so trying to move away from the rote learning program and just instilling creativity and self-expression, innovation, so that when they're older they can be the ones that create the change and find the solutions for the problems that they're facing. We have run a pilot program in Rosina Favela in Brazil, and that's basically providing activities that build pride and a sense of belonging among local youth so that they don't leave early and often lead into exploitative industries. In India, we're working at Katpate Learning Centre, and we're working with children whose mothers work at the brothels in the red light district. And so we're just trying to give these children the same opportunities that others would receive for an education and recreational activities. And Egypt, we just started yesterday, so that's really exciting. And we're working at an orphanage in Cairo, providing outlets of self-expression for youth who have lost their parents due to street violence and the civil unrest. And the feedback from the team has been really great, that it all ran really smoothly, and the young people are really excited to have Mayibuye coming every week, so that's good. So we are aiming to launch in these 3 countries this year. In Indonesia, we want to work with the local young kids who are working on the street as street performers, and just providing them with new skills and training, and also legal avenues for them to showcase their skills. In Vietnam, working in rural villages, just building a sense of community by providing recreational and social activities, and also venues and facilities for them to access. And in Burma, we actually work here in Victoria with a Karen community, and we've been running a project with them, and the facilitators actually want to return to Burma now and start Mayibuye themselves. So we shall support them in that. We've just had a volunteer return on Tuesday from the researching projects over there, so hopefully that will be able to happen this year as well. Okay, so common threads among all the different projects. The model stays the same, so the structure of the life skills and dance, performances, moving into choreography, all stays the same, and the curriculum is there for everybody to use, and it's easy to use and implement. The structure of having a country manager and volunteers is the same in all the countries, and we find that providing volunteer opportunities really empowers the local youth, and they're moving into employment and getting scholarships to study because they've had that experience. Cross-cultural engagement. For all our participants, no matter what country they're in, they all understand that they're part of this global family. And they all get international volunteers visiting and sharing their skills, whether it's through placements or our international tours. Communications and resources. So we use everything we can find, whether it's WhatsApp, Facebook, Skype, Dropbox, email, just to make sure that the volunteers all have some resource that they can use to communicate, and that we can have regular check-ins. In many countries, the only internet access is mobile phones, so that's why we're using WhatsApp and Skype and that sort of thing. All of the curriculum and forms are online, so volunteers can access them at any time and any place. And we're also developing a series of dance tutorial videos so that if participants want to learn a certain style and the facilitators don't know it, they can watch the videos and learn, and that means that the young people have access to every style. In terms of values and culture, I guess there's just this sense that we're really one big family, and we give everyone a go no matter what the background or experience level is. There's lots of young people in positions of leadership, and there's just this sort of belief that anything's possible, nothing's impossible, and we can just do it. So any new ideas, it's just like, sure, let's tackle this and let's do it. And we also, in terms of participants, just accept anybody. It doesn't matter whether you can dance, you can't dance. We don't mind. You'll be supported through the program. We have a really non-competitive vibe, so we just celebrate that everybody's giving something new giving something new a go. So if you get up on stage and you stuff up, you forget what's going on, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you got up there in the first place is what we celebrate.
Thank you very much for that overview, Kumari. It's incredible to hear about your work. And for the purposes of this webinar, we're focusing on how your organization and your mission has been able to go from one place to the next. And I think that's really a testament to the effectiveness of your model and your programs. Could you talk to us a little bit about your creation story? How did the first program start up in Africa? What was that story like?
Sure. So there was a group of us that was volunteering for another youth organisation here in Melbourne. And we ran a partnership exchange tour and brought a group of young people over from South Africa and one facilitator. And this facilitator came up to me and was like, oh, I hear you're a dancer. Can you come and teach at our community? And I was like, that's an amazing idea, but when I thought about it more, I would come and teach for 2 weeks and it would be exciting and amazing, but then at the end of the 2 weeks, nothing's really changed. Everything would just go back to the same. So we kind of kept talking and building on the idea of, you know, including life skills and having pathway opportunities for the young people. So we decided to start this organisation, but we had a lot of negativity around us, I guess. A lot of people saying that we couldn't do it, we were too young, I'd never been to South Africa, we didn't have any experience. But one of the good things that came out of that was someone said, why don't you just run a pilot? Just run a tour to South Africa and see how it goes. If it all doesn't work, it doesn't matter, you haven't really lost anything. So we did that. I took 6 dancers from Australia across to South Africa, and everything was just amazing. It was everything we'd ever thought of, and it all went really well. And that basically launched the program. And that's another thing that we tend to do now is start everything with a tour. So that was the learning. And yeah, so now he runs the South African projects, and that's continuing to grow and go really well.
That's great, and you know that story about overcoming negativity really kind of embodies the spirit of entrepreneurship, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think you can really learn from it. If you listen to all the things they're saying and the questions, you come up with the solutions and create a better program anyway.
That's a great way to think about it, to turn some negativity and criticism into ways to learn new lessons and apply them. So in spite of all this negativity, you were able to get your foot grounded in South Africa and create that successful program that has been ongoing now for how long?
Well, like maybe 4.5 years, I think.
Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
So on top of all of that, you took it and you decided to bring it home with you, right?
Yeah, it was probably about 6 months later, and I was living in a town which is about 2 hours away from the city, and I was just seeing the disadvantage was on my doorstep, and I was like, this program, it's universal, dance works everywhere, why aren't we doing it here as well? And so that started the conversation of, well, let's launch in Australia. It was pretty hard initially to get partnerships and get people to listen just because we were still really unknown. and I guess there's a risk of investing in something that could fail. But thankfully we found an amazing partner in Gippsland Multicultural Services up in Morwell, and they've just been, I guess, this pioneer behind us, just supporting us 100% and giving us the opportunity to get out into new regions. And I think that was definitely essential for us to start, is just having someone who really believed in what we were trying to do. Yeah, and then from there we've just continued to grow. We only had 2 people actually turn up to the first day at that one, and now we've probably got a couple of hundred participants in Victoria. So yeah.
And one of those now several hundred participants that have moved through your programs in Australia helped you to move Mayibuye as an organization even further, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't a participant, it was one of our volunteers in Australia. She had grown up in Cambodia because her dad worked for the UN, and she was volunteering for us here, and she just came to me one day and said, you know, can I take it back to Cambodia? I would love to go back there and set it up. So we spent a year doing training, management, consulting with different groups, fundraising the money, and then her and another guy, Lyndon, went over there and lived there for a year setting it up at 21. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. That's quite an endeavor, too, for a 21-year-old. And so now you're spreading from your first program in South Africa, and after taking it back to Australia and having a volunteer be inspired enough to take it upon themselves to move it again to Cambodia, you're now in India and Egypt and Brazil as well. Are those similar kinds of expansion stories where some inspired participant or volunteer took it, or are there different stories behind those connections?
Yeah, there's many different stories. Basically, we will never go into a community if we haven't been invited, or we don't know anything about it, or we don't have someone who's wanting to head it up. If we look at India and Egypt, it's actually through the Global Fellows Program. When we were in Brazil last year, that 2 of the fellows said, you know, we're running these organizations, we would love Mayibuye to come and work there. So that's the beginning of that conversation, and now it's a reality. Indonesia and Vietnam is 2 international students who've been doing our programs in Melbourne here, who have said, you know, we're finishing our schooling, we would love to go back into our communities and take Mayibuye with us. So we've been working with them to train them up to be facilitators and work with them around what's needed to actually run a program. And as I said before, like Burma is a facilitator who's also wanting to go home and take the program with him.
So after 4.5 years, you're now going on 9 countries. Is that right?
Hopefully by the end of this year, yes.
And a lot of these new expansions are really brought about by someone who's had some involvement with your program, being inspired enough or motivated enough by your program to take it to a new place. So what is it about, what do you see that in your program and in your model that provides that sort of inspiration where people would say, this is something that I need to take home with me, this is something that I need to adopt?
Yeah, I don't know whether I have the exact answer to that question. Maybe there's like a dance virus going around, I don't know. I just think that we're different. Like, if you look at a lot of other organizations, there's different, I guess, skills or passions that if you have those, you want to go to certain organizations. And I think for us, it's the dance and the arts. You're not going to get involved with our organization if you don't kind of respect that's the importance of dance and arts and development, and be really passionate about it. It's just, I guess, nice to find a place that you can go that appreciates your skills and gets you. So maybe that's what we do. I know there's organizations out there using dance, but there's a small, you know, community of us doing it. Yeah, and I guess also, I mean, young and so open to opportunity. So if someone's got a dream, we'll just be like, yes, sure, let's go with it. So it's that kind of, I guess, optimistic, yes, we can do it vibe that allows young people to say, well, maybe I can too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about people in dance and the arts, you typically think about people who are passionate and motivated. But it can't just be the dance and the arts, because half of your model is about life skills development, and the target population is really, you know, potentially at-risk youth. So is there something about your curriculum in that sense as well?
Yeah, and just on that, I would say about 80% of our volunteers are not dancers or artists, but it's just about appreciating it. And what's also been funny is how many of our volunteers who do run the life skills or do work on operations actually join our programs and want to learn dancing themselves. So yeah, it's just an appreciation. But I guess it's also probably a really hands-on approach. So you are working with young people, you're in the community all the time with them, you're building relationships. And I guess also maybe it's that opportunity for young people to be gaining experience and to be in positions of leadership which will benefit their future careers.
How participatory is your program with the life skills courses?
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you're talking about involving young people in leadership, are you talking about your volunteers or the participants of the program?
I was talking about our volunteers, but actually we do now run a fellowship program, so participants can apply for that and be trained in how to facilitate and how to be a leader, and a lot of our programs now are run by past participants, so both.
And it can't just be the model, though. I mean, even if you have a really inspiring model, a great curriculum, there's something organizational that's transportable about Mayibuye, right? I mean, something about your cost structure or your model. What do you think those key elements are that enable Mayibuye to be so portable in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, we are fairly low cost, so I mean, to run any program, to get it up and running, all you need is music and venues and someone to teach it. So that really helps in terms of being able to start somewhere else. And I think also just having all the resources structured and available online and really easy to transfer over and easy to understand in different cultures as well. Probably also because it's volunteer run, that helps. And I guess that we've had the experience now of launching in different places, so we know what can come up and we know what to prepare for and who to talk to. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Sure. And it seems like partnerships are a really strong part of your expansion story as well, right?
Yeah, I definitely think having the organizations in each country that really believe in what we're doing and are willing to help us out with providing the venue or access to participants, performance opportunities. Yeah, it's really vital.
And talking about low costs involved in your programming, it doesn't mean that there's no costs, right? And you were telling us before about how you have really diverse funding streams. From henna tattoos to grants to people who pay for you to do programs in their schools. What are kind of the pros and cons of having so much diversity? Do you find it some days you wish you had, you know, like one major stream of revenue, or do you think it's an advantage to have so much diversity?
Every day I wish we had one big massive stream of income. That would be ideal. I mean, that's definitely something we're working on now. I think even if we had that, we would probably still have a number of the other avenues, because it's actually really good for building morale among volunteers to have people go out into festivals and events and be talking about the organization and doing tattoos and selling products that really actually gets them more involved and more passionate about the organisation. And it's also how we spread a lot of the word about what we do as well. But yes, I would love a big stream of income. And I think the problem with not having that is the operational side of things. We can cover a lot of projects and get funding for specific projects, but it's the actual operation side of things that is more of a challenge.
So that's really interesting. You're saying that some of your kind of fundraising focused activities, it's not really just, the benefit for that isn't really just the revenue that you're getting, but it's also providing some kind of organizational strength by increasing morale and the connectedness of your staff and volunteers. And it also serves as kind of a, almost like a promotional or marketing tool to
get it's marketing, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so seeing as you're motivating and mobilizing this group of volunteers, also staff, but primarily volunteers, how important is your personal leadership to all of this expansion?
I think it's pretty important. I think being a cheerleader, I guess, behind it all, that really believes in the young people and really believes in the project and is available to support wherever needed is really essential. I think there's also that kind of optimism that anything's possible and also resilience if things go wrong. Nobody's perfect, I'm certainly not, and I think it's just that kind of ability to say, all right, we're just going to learn from this experience and we're going to find out what we need to know to make sure it doesn't happen again. Or, yeah, it's just that kind of eagerness to always be learning more and finding out the things that I don't know and not giving up. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a leader of this now multinational organization and spreading?
There's a number of different challenges. I mean, initially, I'm a dancer, so I think all of the operational sides has been one of the biggest things that I've had to learn in terms of business and marketing and managing volunteers. That was definitely in the early stages one of my biggest challenges. And I think now it's actually almost like the reverse, because I feel like as the organization grows, my role is so much more operations and so much more just the business side of things. And I'm looking at, you know, what am I most passionate about, and is it, am I okay with doing that side of things, or do I really want to be on the ground still dancing and teaching? So that's currently kind of the decisions that need to be made at the moment, is whether, yeah, what sort of I'm passionate about and what keeps me going. And I think also there's definitely times when it does just seem so huge and you get overwhelmed and you're like, can we really do this? Can we work in 9 countries, and are we being crazy? But I'm just constantly reminded of where we used to be and how much we've already done so far. And before every stage you always have that feeling of, can I? And probably not, and then you do it and everything's fine. So yeah, I just constantly remind myself that we have done it. We've gotten through every stage, so why can't we get through the next one?
It's like a continuous series of leaps of faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of backing up to what you were saying about having to transition from being a dancer and passionate about dancing and teaching dance to being a leader that might be more dedicated to the operational side of running an organization, managing people, relating and liaising with donors and clients. I think that's probably something that's in a shared experience with a lot of our other YouthActionNet fellows for sure, but other social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs out there. How do you think you learned? What was the learning experience for you in terms of transitioning from that more dance focus to an operational focus? Was it learning by experience, just doing it, or did you pursue any kinds of learning opportunities?
Sure. So a few of those things. Initially, I would say we all just threw ourselves completely into it. Google was absolutely my best friend. Every single form I needed to fill out, I would just look on Google and find somebody else who had done it, and I would copy. So just doing very much, just getting in there and getting it done. But I think you get to a point where that's not enough. And I think that's when I started really looking for opportunities like the Global Fellows and Young Social Pioneers, because I just realized that there was so much I didn't know, and I didn't know, I guess, yeah, how to go about getting it. So these were perfect programs. And I think that's probably one of the things that's gotten us so far, is that we're also eager to learn. I guess it's just realizing your weaknesses, but being okay with them and then working to fix them and being eager to do that.
Sure. And so the two programs that you talked about, being both YouthActionNet programs, the Young Social Pioneers in Australia and the Laureate Global Fellowship, how important is peer learning to that process?
It is so essential, and it's even more than that. I mean, so many people, you're out there trying to create change, and it feels so lonely. Before I joined Young Social Pioneers, I did not have a clue that there was all these other crazy people just like me trying to start these organizations. And it was like just this sense of relief to go, oh, you're experiencing exactly the same problems, and just being able to talk everything through. Yeah, it's so important. And just, I mean, you can learn. If somebody else has gone through that experience, you can learn from it and you don't have to go through the same thing. So, yeah, it's really important. Just to find your tribe and find your network, even if it's not through one of these programs, just connect with other people in the area who are doing something similar.
Yeah, so networking and finding out that you're not working in isolation, even though you think you might be sometimes, is really important. Yeah. I know that during the last retreat, we had the fellows organized an informal session that involves a word I'm not going to use today, but let's call it a mess-up night. In the spirit of a mess-up night, is there kind of a key failure or shortcoming or something in your leadership journey that really was something that enabled you to learn that you want to share with everybody today?
Yeah, there was just one story that I like to share, and it's around what are the positive and negative consequences that could occur when you actually achieve what you're setting out to achieve. So when we started working in South Africa, about a year into the program, everything was going really well. Our programs were full. Just so many outcomes were occurring, and suddenly, within like a week, all these parents had pulled their kids out of the programs, and we just couldn't figure out what had just happened. And it turns out that, yes, we built their confidence. These kids were out there performing everywhere. We had basically achieved what we had set out to achieve, but what we didn't realize is that we'd given them really massive egos. So they thought that they were so cool in this community. They were refusing to go to school. They wouldn't do their chores at home. And so the parents just saw that that was the outcome of our programs and didn't want them to be involved. So that's when we started introducing the volunteering and going out there and being involved in the community and grounding yourself and realizing that, yes, you're having these opportunities, but these are your roots, and, you know, there's so much you can give back, I guess. And so as much as that was like a trying time, it totally was one of the best learnings because it changed our program and incorporated this whole new avenue that now runs across every country. So, yeah. Wow.
That's definitely one lesson well learned then, huh?
Definitely.
And so not to just focus on failures, what was one key success besides that learning experience that really helped propel you along your way?
I think it's just that kind of never give up attitude. So if we look at our full-time school, which hopefully is starting in April, it's been a long 1.5 year journey. And I'm super impatient. Like, I like to see things happen straight away. But it's, you know, we approached one institution who were really keen to have the program, and then came back with this contract of totally everything they hadn't said and changed all the figures and stats. And so we left them and went to another institution who were super keen to have the program, and then about 6 months later the institution cut all their arts programs. So then we had to go to a third one, which is now where we are. But I think it's just that there's going to be so many challenges. There's going to be, promises that are made or opportunities that fall through. But you can't let it deter you because there's always another one around the corner if you're looking for it.
That's a great way to think. I just have one more question before we take some questions from our participants. But what does, now that you've kind of been able to have some success spreading the program to different places and having some stable programming in maybe your older organizations, what does success look like to you? How would you define Mayibuye's success?
Yeah, I think there's two different sides of it. It's the engagement that we have with the community. So success is that our programs are full and that there's young people coming and being engaged in positive learning and dance and things that are keeping them away from negative influences. And that can be everywhere, and that it can work in so many different communities, and that people are communicating and sharing across the different countries, and it really just does feel like this big family. But then the other side of success is that we aim to build an organization that really is sustainable, that does have the funding and does have all the structures in place and the foundations to make sure that it can go on long term. And also, I guess, without me, that we've built up an organization that we can move on and it can just continue running. That would be success to me.
Well, thank you. All right, so let me take some questions now. This is a good question. So do you recruit at-risk youth? And the second part of this question is my favorite. What are some strategies for getting youth involved who might not see themselves as dancers? I know I'm a little bit shy sometimes on the dance floor. How would you engage those kinds of kids?
Sure. So what was the first one, though, about how do you engage?
Do you recruit at-risk youth?
Well, those are our target market. So we work with a lot of disadvantaged young people. And I think the way you get them involved is by having heaps of fun games and activities where they don't even realize that they're dancing yet. So if you come up with just heaps of fun things where they're socializing, meeting people, having fun, and it just feels like this high energy activity, you can then transition into other things because they've already done it and they didn't realize. That's one tip. I think also just, positive encouragement and just not caring whether they can dance or not, and just, celebrating them, giving something a go. And the other thing is, like, getting out there and performing. They see that we're not professionals, that the young kids are not professionals, they're all beginners, they're making mistakes, and yet they're still out there performing. So if you can get the performances out into different communities, it breaks down the barriers of expectation for new participants.
Great, thank you. Another question is, how did you adapt the programs as you expand from one place to another in different cultural contexts? And did the universal nature of dance make the expansion easier?
So much easier. That's definitely been the tool. And in terms of the different models, yes, we have a different focus in terms of life skills and what we're trying to achieve in each of the communities. But they've also adapted in that dance is something that's across everything. But, for example, South Africa also has a massive focus on poetry. Cambodia, it's on art. In Australia, a lot more drama. So they're kind of growing to what the young people want in the communities as well. Sorry, it was a long question. Was there something I missed?
No, that's it. Kind of incorporating those other elements as well.
Yeah, just being flexible and I guess giving the trust to the local facilitators and coordinators to grow it to what the young people in each community need. Great.
And do you work with partner organizations to implement your programs in new countries? And if so, how do you find these organizations and leverage the work they already do?
Sure. So yes, we do. We generally research in the community what's working, and because initially we always have that one person who's pioneering it, who's going into the community and who will be running the program. So they're often the ones that go and create the relationships with these organizations. In terms of leveraging, I guess it's already youth-focused organizations. It's often already organizations that have a participatory base that we can just go in and work with their young people, and access to venues, which reduces the costs as well. Yeah, and I guess they also have a lot of ties within the community to other organizations, to festivals and events that we can perform at, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Great. So that was all the questions that we had. Just to wrap up some of the things that we talked about your successful scalability. Seems like the ability to motivate volunteers, and part of that being a reliance on your networks, both for learning about organizational development or entrepreneurship, but also in your networks, meaning in the sense of your participants and volunteers. And you talked a lot about your local allies in forming those partnerships, your cost structure, and then using different technologies to share materials and having a replicable training methodology. Is there anything you would add to this list being key elements of your success in scaling?
No, I think that's all, and I guess it's just that also the values and culture of just being able to spread that of inclusivity and being able to do anything, I think has been really important as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that came up a lot when you were talking, is that attitude. So that's one thing we would probably want to add here, is just that attitude of optimism, and that can-do attitude.
Yeah.
And some of your key challenges have been stable funding, which is common for many entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs, I think, and communication and coordination among the different country programs, and then maintaining reputation. I don't think we touched on that one as much.
No, we haven't really. I guess it's just something that I'm currently thinking a lot about, is as we grow into all of these different organizations, how do we maintain the reputation and the brand? Obviously I can't be everywhere, so there's things that can happen, or new programs or new initiatives or things that the volunteers do that could put the reputation at risk. And so it's just trying to figure out, and I don't have the solution yet, but it's just trying to figure out how, moving forward, do we make sure that the reputation's kept really clean and well, and that something that happens in one place doesn't put everything at jeopardy.
Sure. Well, an entrepreneur's work is never done, right?
Never.
You solve some problems and you get some success, and there's always going to be some challenges that come up sometimes as a result of your success.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you for everyone out there listening. I'm just going to share here Kumari's contact information, her email, the organization's website and Facebook pages here, as well as the Mayibuye Twitter handle and Kumari's. I want to thank our sponsors once again, the Sylvan Laureate Foundation and the American Express Foundation. And if you have any questions about the YouthActionNet or the International Youth Foundation, you could email us here at this email address. And yeah, thank you for everybody's time today. I hope this was useful and interesting for you all. Feel free to also include any emails to us about other webinars you might be interested in hearing about, webinar topics, or comments on how to improve. Thank you very much for your participation, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.